Hey guys, Keegan Smith here for Real Movement Project. Welcome to the podcast. Really excited about today's episode. I got to speak to Paul Eliseo, Ready to Evolve. The guy has a very deep understanding of what it takes to change mindset, change beliefs, and he's traveling around Australia delivering on how to, helping people to go through that process, primarily targeting personal trainers, the people who have the biggest possibility to make impact on the psychology, physiology, and overall function of a human being because we have so much contact with people. The episode went really well, liquid gold. Really hope that you guys get a lot out of it and appreciate it. He mentions a lot of the people who have had a big impact on him, who are also people who have had a huge impact on myself and members of Real Movement Project. So give me some feedback on how you enjoyed the podcast and talk to me about who else you'd love to hear from. I'm excited to be kicking these off, and I really enjoyed speaking to Paul today. If you want to hear more from Real Movement Project, go on to realmovementproject.com, jump on the newsletter, and every week I'm going to be delivering to you some of the most exciting parts of what happens here with Real Movement, training tips, nutrition tips, recipes, and supporting your journey. So just trying to make a bigger impact, help more people, and show you guys the things that I value most that have had the biggest impact on me. Every time we do this, we're going to be looking for practical information on how we can make life better, what things we can apply, and how to nail down the techniques that are going to make the biggest difference. So enjoy the podcast. The first 4 minutes, the sound quality is a bit funny. I had the double sound thing going. Sorry about that. Won't do it again. Paul sounds like a bit of a robot. After 4 minutes, it's perfect audio quality. So, enjoy, and I'll talk to you guys soon. So here with Paul Eliseo. Paul has a Ready to Evolve program, and he's been working with lots of people around Australia and probably around the world now. I'm not exactly sure how it works, so that's why we're here today, to learn about what it takes to evolve mindset and what techniques Paul's using. So we're going to be really practical, and we're also going to learn a little bit about how he's got to where he is right now, because I know this thing is booming. I've worked with a lot of people who've been connected with Paul, and the feedback's been amazing. So I had to get him on a call and to learn a bit about it, and I know that you guys are going to get some big value out of this as well. So thanks for coming on, Paul.
Thanks for having me, mate. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome, yeah, thank you. So before you shoot off to Perth to present today, you're spending some time with us. What are you actually going to be doing when you get over there to Perth?
Sweet. So when I get to Perth, I'm running my one-day workshop, which is called Missing Piece of the Coaching Puzzle. I always say peach. Missing Piece of the Coaching Puzzle. And basically, it's a combination of what took me a decade plus to work out as a PT and health coach, lifestyle coach, whatever you want to call it. Basically, it's a combination of, the things I bumped my head against, and basically my struggles, my challenges that I went and learned different things from different places and from my own experience, and then put the pieces together to make it easy to understand why clients struggle, why they, self-sabotage, how to help them switch out of their fight or flight state to a rest digest state so their body can recover, they can heal, they can actually start to drop weight, and they can actually make change. So it's a variety of ideas and concepts, plus some practical, and then it's a dive into your belief system. It's a dive into a look at what's really important to you, so your values and stuff. But then also it's a bit of a goal set and a bit of a direction towards the end of the day. So, and also look at how to communicate with your clients and build trust and rapport, so that you can actually get them to. No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. So you really got to show your clients that you're there for them, you believe in them. And once you've got that connection, then they're more than likely going to follow the program. So it's a combination of all those things.
Yeah, awesome. There's a million things that we can pull out there for the next however long we go with this. How do you believe in people who you don't really know? What's your underlying belief, that says that we can work with people?
Sweet. So I'm not sure what the audience is and how far we're going to go with this, but let's just start pretty far in the deep end. I believe that we're all our own, basically, creator of our own reality. We're our own God, if you want to use that word or that label. But everyone has the power. They basically are creating everything that's happened to them up until this present moment based on their thoughts, their actions, their belief systems. If you talk about quantum physics, the reality loads as you look at it. So the probabilities exist outside of you. There's all energy, all probability. When you observe it, all the probabilities collapse into one certain reality that you're observing.
Yep.
So I know that everyone has that power inside of them.
Yep.
They've just forgotten. They've just been asleep so long they forgot that they were creating it. So I like to say I got so involved in what I was creating, I forgot that I created it. So my goal was basically to wake people up to the dream they're living or the nightmare they're living and help them to consciously choose what they want to create and then fall back asleep and enjoy it again. Because most people are walking around in trances where they believe that they are them, that they are their problem, they are their personality, their belief system. They don't realise that's a hypnotic state or a trance or a goggle they see the world through. Because you believe your name's Keegan, but you're not Keegan, you were called that. Someone labelled you that and you learnt to associate that noise, that sound to getting your attention. And from then on, that's been you. So some of that's useful and we need labels, but some of those labels aren't useful. So for me, I realised that anything that people believe or is wrong with them is a neurological connection. It's something they've been trained, they've learnt, they believe is true over life. But I do this thing in my workshops. I draw a space on the ground and say, okay, put your problems in here. Yep. People kind of laugh at it a little bit, but they can't put them in there because there's nothing to put in there. It's all a neurological construct. It's a construct of your psyche, your nervous system, your perceptual filters, and that's actually easy to change because if we zoomed in on those neurons, at a deepest level, there's nothing there. So really, I'm basically helping people remove something that's a construct of their own thought patterns, their belief systems, and that's easy to do. It's just the belief that it's hard is what's kept a lot of, psychology and all those kind of things trapped for a long time.
Yep. So we did go very deep there. So this does overlap with a lot of what I understand intellectually, but do I live it? Do I to the ultimate extent believe it? That's I can honestly say that I don't, and I feel like unraveling this stuff and having it be more real to me is probably one of the most fun parts of life. But how deeply do you feel like you believe what you just said?
Is what do you think is actually real?
What is real? It's a very deep question.
Well, that's it, mate. It's a deep rabbit hole, and if you explore it, you'll find that anything that you think is real is basically a thought pattern. It's something you can perceive. It's an experience. It's not. You can't prove that you exist, and I can't prove that I exist. It's basically just an illusion. That's like you're getting deep into metaphysics. They all point back to that. So I believe we're always lying to ourselves, or we're having the truest truth that we can experience. There's no real reality. We're all living in our own parallel realities, and we all coexist with each other. And the fun part is to basically unravel what you're creating and then help yourself create a better reality. Because as you change your vibrational frequency, you start to tune into different realities and you start to experience what's possible. And I'm sure we're going to explore that more as we talk today.
Yeah, it's it does make a lot of sense. But how did you get to this way of thinking? Were you is this what your parents believed, or is this stuff that?
Okay, sweet, good story. I sometimes tell this in some of my workshops. Depends on what the workshop is, but basically, I wasn't always the me that I experienced today. In my late teens, early 20s, going through a lot. It's a big transitional point in a lot of people's lives. For me, coming to the end of high school, I was always a smart ass kid. Like I was a smart kid, but didn't really like school. Always good at talking. I actually found some of my report cards and they were like, Paul was a confident speaker, but can't apply himself and like all this kind of stuff. So it was really interesting to see what traits I still have that have actually become a good thing these days. But at that transition point, I had been going through my first real relationship, had been cheated on. My family dynamic was very interesting. My parents separated. I had a stepdad that was very physically, mentally, emotionally abusive. I had, I was unsure of myself at that point. Had a lot of friends I was hanging around with that were doing interesting things, and I was enjoying those things too. But wasn't like I was a super active, healthy sort of teenager. But at that point, really, the emotions started taking hold, and I basically stopped moving and started eating really shit and all that kind of thing. Wasn't really aware of what health was like at those days, but basically that all created this environment of my body wasn't functioning well, my mind wasn't functioning well. I started to experience, if you want to call it depression, basically low self-esteem. I started to develop irritable bowel syndrome, panic attacks, severe anxiety. I also started to develop auditory hallucinations and basically, if you want to call it that, paranoia to whatever level you want to label it. But I got so scared of the world, I couldn't even leave my house at some points. There was days where when I left school and started working full time, that I actually had a panic attack and blacked out the whole rest of the day. I don't even know what happened to me. It got so bad that at one point I couldn't even leave my house just to go to my best mate's house. I used to run through shopping centres. I couldn't be around people at all. So that was an interesting place to be, an interesting experience to have.
So is this near the end of school?
Yeah, so late teens, early 20s. It was a period of a few years. It wasn't just a short period. It kind of progressively got worse before it got better.
Yeah, right. So did people try and medicate you, or did you go to a place for reform, or?
I talked to doctors, but not really about the mental emotional component, just the physical component. Like I was trying to get my stomach sorted out. I just always had stomach problems, and they were trying to get me to basically stick a pipe down this end and that end and take a few things. But no one ever asked me what was happening inside. And honestly, I was afraid to admit what was happening because I wasn't even sure what was happening.
Yeah.
It all kind of related to this one moment where, I was going to leave the house and I couldn't. And then basically stopped and looked in the mirror before leaving. I couldn't leave the house, but I just had a sort of pep talk with myself and said, look, there's two roads we could end up. One where it's just going to spiral out of control, or one where we take control of this and start doing something about it. And I made myself a promise I'd do whatever it took. So the next day, you know what they say, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. My plans were to go down and just hang out at a park and be around people and just kind of get comfortable in that uncomfortable environment.
Yep.
But I went there and it was packed. It was like some sort of special event on. So I ended up somewhere else where I've never been, and it was a library. So I ended up in this library, and it was a good place for a weirdo to be because when you're in that environment, there's lots of people, but they don't talk to you and they kind of do their own thing. So I got comfortable in that space. And then after I finally got that sense of comfort, I was like, well, why am I here? What can I do here? And I had started another relationship a couple of months before that. And the girl I was seeing had a few different issues as well. And I found a book that was about what she was going through. So I basically started reading it. And then after the section of what she was going through was irritable bowel syndrome stuff. And the guy said to keep a thought journal because basically all your physiological symptoms are based on your psychological, patterns. And I started doing that. And within a couple of days, I had this light bulb moment because every time my stomach started churning, I was thinking about something that could go wrong in the future. And then from that moment on, I pretty much became obsessed with understanding the mind-body connection and how it all works.
So you got stronger feedback from your own physiological system that this stuff is real. Because a lot of people don't, massively. It's hard for them to take this on because they haven't connected the dots as strongly as that. But that is a nice light bulb moment, I think, and one that makes all your study from that point on so much more powerful, right? Like if you know that that's where the solutions are. Yeah,
well, emotions are signals, and most people in society don't realize that their body is trying to communicate with them all the time. And, we suppress that and we try to reject what we feel, but there's a lot of learnings to be had in that. And as I started to become aware and learn how to interpret what my body was telling me, learn how to clear up some of the mental, emotional blocks I had, my reality changed. I went from working in what I called the depressed shop, making car parts components, and into the fitness world, into the biggest gym in South Australia, became personal trainer of the year, talked in front of hundreds of people, and have no problem in front of people.
So
and people I don't know
about. Transition?
Pretty quick, man. From that moment I walked into that library to changing jobs, changing careers, it would have been 6 months.
Yeah.
And that was, going the slow way. With what I know now, that process can be a lot faster.
Yeah. Wow, man, that's an amazing journey. It's probably gives a lot of hope to anyone who's listening to this, because I know most people now to some extent are dealing with mental health stuff, right? And I don't know too many people who have experienced it much more extreme than what you've just described there. So you had the pointy end of it.
Some people call it the dark night of the soul, whatever you want to call it. I had to go through that experience to do what I do today so I can empathize and understand what happens and where it is. There's no accidents, and this is one thing I tell my coaches and my clients, that all the seemingly bad things that happen in life, when you've learned from them in the future, actually were perfect. It's exactly what you needed to create for you to be who you need to become. And sometimes seems like a downward negative slope, but there's always in the shit, that's where the flowers grow. So we basically, that shaped who I am today, and I'm so grateful for that moment, and I actually would never go back and change it because I actually needed that to happen so I could become who I am today.
Yeah. So you took yourself through a process of change there, and now you teach a process of change. So people who are listening to this, on some degree, want their minds to function better. They want to be more in harmony with, you know, their dreams and their biggest aspirations compared to their reality. That they're looking at how to fuse that. Obviously, that's what you're teaching. Like, where can people get started with that sort of thing?
Cool. So there's multiple ways, and I like looking at the two sort of ways to get there, the mind and the body. Obviously, most of the people in the Real Movement probably are pretty switched on with what they're doing with their body, which is great. But then there's different levels of that, because they might be physically fit and might be strong, but are they actually really healthy, and are they actually paying attention to their emotions? Because there's physically fit, but then there's emotional endurance, psychological strength, mental mobility. Like, these are things that we don't cultivate a lot in our society. So I would start becoming aware of what your thought patterns are and what you're thinking. I would start setting goals and noticing what comes up in the process, because a lot of times you'll set a goal and things will happen on the way. So I talk a lot about this in my workshop, but basically, when you're putting conscious effort in to achieve something, you have to really, really focus hard. And generally what happens is, the moment you stop paying attention, your unconscious patterns will derail you. So it's like the story of Sisyphus, where you push the boulder up the hill, and then during the day and that night you go to sleep and the boulder's back down the hill again. So really exploring what unconscious patterns you have based on your childhood upbringing, society, all the different levels of programming, that's a place where you'll get a lot of bang for your buck in terms of putting your energy on to do the healing or learn from those patterns, so then you can release them and start creating new stuff. So that's where I spend a lot of my time. I believe that we have a capacity of how much energy and mental focus we have, and a lot of that's stuck in the past for most people. They've got trauma or certain things that have happened where their energy's stuck in that, and unconsciously they're always looking for that to keep themselves safe. And until you free up those patterns and some of those emotions that are trapped, you can't create a new reality, because you keep recreating the same. So you'll see this in people that make money, lose it, always get in the same relationships, always hit plateaus or sabotage themselves. There's the fear or the blocks that they're trying to protect themselves with that aren't real. It's just stuff that they've learned through life. So just becoming aware of what you've got in your life is definitely where I'd start. And I do talk a lot about perception is projection, but your life is basically a mirror for your belief system, your what you think is possible for yourself. And if you look at what you're actually creating at the moment, that'll show you a lot about what you actually believe is possible.
Yeah. So you can tell what people have been thinking by the results that they have around them.
100%. I think it's the Buddha that says, if you want to know what your thoughts were yesterday, look at your body today. If you want to know what your body will be tomorrow, look at your thoughts today. The same holds true in finance, in relationships, in pretty much any area of your life. You're a byproduct of what you've thought, you've felt, and you've decided in the past, and your future is based on what you do now. So really, life is a mirror, and it's showing you exactly who you've been being in the past up until now to create that. And if you want to create a new future, you have to start being a different person in this current moment.
Yeah. So how do we do that?
Cool. So there's a variety of different processes. You can get into meditation. You can get into some of the modes that I teach, which is like more people call it practical psychology. I use NLP, hypnosis, and a variety of other tools that I've kind of learned through the years. And I certify in those modalities, but teach my version of them. But basically, we can do regression work where we release past emotions, past beliefs. We can do some reprogramming work, so basically regression, reprogramming, and reassociation, because everything we have or we respond to is based on associations. I say Keegan and you pay attention because it's your name. But when we have things like, what's the primary goal of the guys listening to this? Is it to make more money, to build a better business, to be healthier? What's the thing that drives them? I think the overarching thing is trying to have an impact of positivity on the world. Yeah.
Physical performance and health are kind of the medium for that in a lot of ways, but then there's a financial side to it, right? Like, you have more money coming in, you can have a bigger facility, you can go and do more courses, you can have better equipment, you can do more advertising. So really they want it all, basically.
Yeah. So if we break down each component of that, let's just use the label or the word health.
Yep.
Everyone thinks that's a positive thing. If people say, I want to be more healthy, we think, great, they want something great in their life. That's a positive towards motivator. But honestly, if we pay attention and actually deconstruct what people associate to health, you'll be super surprised most of the time. If you just start exploring why health is important to you, people will say, oh, because I don't want to get sick, or because I don't want to be unhealthy, or because I don't want to be fat, or because, and they're telling you what they don't want, which is actually an away from motivation. So unconsciously, they're making pictures of themselves fat, unhealthy, sick, and they're actually pushing themselves like away from that. But in terms of doing that, to know what you don't want, you actually have to focus on it. So this is where a lot of clients say they want to be healthy, but they're actually unconsciously running away from the things they don't want, which is actually putting energy on what they don't want. So this is where people that have mixed results in terms of finance, in terms of relationship, they may say something that sounds great, like, yeah, I want to have more money. Everyone think that sounds really cool, but unconsciously, what have they got wired up to that word or to that thing? Could be, say, someone that wants to lose weight. It could be childhood trauma. They might have been yelled at. They might have been told they were fat and slow and ugly. They might have been, all these different things. They're all linked into that word. So, that only gets you so far, the away from motivation, the running away from those things. So what I'm really interested in is basically working out how those things are wired up in the nervous system, and then also creating new positive associations, because that creates a better level of achievement. When people have it too far away from motivation, they'll tend to get results, then fall off, get results, fall off. If they've got a more towards thing, they'll tend to keep moving towards what they want. So that's one aspect of it. Also, belief systems are huge.
Just to be clear there, you're saying moving towards something that you feel is really positive, and knowing that underlying belief around that thing is something really positive is important, rather than running away from, I definitely don't want to be alone and unhappy and poor,
Yeah. So two different mentalities, the fear, lack mentality, the abundance mentality.
Yeah.
And that's just a different way of describing the same thing, basically.
Yeah.
There's value in both. Like, away from motivation will get you moving. Like, we need it, but it's long term. It's going to cause burnout. It's going to cause dysfunction and pain in the body, because you're never going to feel safe, because you're always running away from something. And this is something that I've seen being in the fitness world for over a decade now.
Yeah,
it's coming on 12 years, like in a couple of weeks' time. But basically, I've seen trainers get in the industry, start making it happen, get to a certain point, and then burn out, because they're always running away from the, failing, basically, at a deep level, or the fear of, whatever it is. So it's something that I've become more and more aware of, and even noticing my own patterns and just seeing what's happening in my life. And then now realizing that there's a level of remedial change where you can basically just fix the problem, but there's also what's called generative change, where you start working on things that keep building on itself. We could talk all day about this, but basically that's one level. And then obviously the belief system, what people think are possible, because people tend to create their self-fulfilling beliefs, and they'll filter reality based on what they think they can achieve. Yeah. And they'll basically delete things that are opposing to their belief system. And this is science proven this. If you talk about law of vibration and law of attraction, if you talk about how your cells start craving certain emotions, if you're a person that believes the world's bad or they can't achieve, you'll start seeing the world in a way, so your body starts feeling the way you want to see the world, and it just keeps perpetuating itself. So physiology, psychology, metaphysics, they're all proving these points on different levels. So it's quite there's so much overwhelming evidence about these things these days, and that's why I'm so inspired to teach it, because anywhere you look, it's pretty much pointing to the same thing.
Yep. Makes a lot of sense. So somewhere within some of those techniques, I guess, is changing brainwave frequencies, dropping into alpha state or delta. Can you talk a little bit about how that stuff works and what modern living does to brainwaves?
Cool, yeah. So most people operate in this sort of beta wave, which is their normal everyday consciousness. To make good levels of change, you need to at least be in an alpha, maybe even theta. If you go delta, sometimes people lose consciousness in that, so it depends on what level you work at. But to do the kind of work that I do, we want to drop people into the alpha or deeper, because that's where your body is going to be open and receptive. And to get into those states, people need to feel safe, and gratitude's a really powerful emotion in that as well. So those kind of emotional states, cultivating them in everyday waking life, will help to shift your body anyway. Yeah. So you don't have to do anything super dramatic or hard techniques, but just learning to make your body feel safe and learning to have gratitude is very therapeutic in itself. and that'll also stimulate those brain waves. But then we also think about the right and left brain as well. I teach in my one-day workshop a few techniques to balance them. Whenever you're in the fight or flight, the sympathetic dominant state, you tend to become more left brain dominant, which is great because you want to survive and you want to basically, keep yourself alive. So it goes into what you've done in the past. So left brain thinking is logical, analytical, which is basically, I've done this before, it's kept me alive, I'll keep doing this. Even though your patterns might be really, really shit and, you're not getting where you want to go, it'll just keep doing the same thing because you're alive. Might not be thriving, but you're alive. So we want to switch to the right brain so we can start being creative, we can start coming up with new things, and then new actions, new thoughts, new behaviors, which creates new outcomes and a new reality. So by getting into the relaxed parasympathetic state, we start to stimulate the right brain, we start thinking outside of our current situation and being creative. And this is something that's huge. It just doesn't matter if they're athletes, doesn't matter if they're weight loss clients. Learning to teach people to feel safe is huge. And just getting them to open up to be creative and receptive is one of the biggest struggles, because people won't take on new information if they already feel stressed or if they already feel like overwhelmed, it's too hard, it's whatever. And you start telling them about this nutrition plan or this much exercise, they're not open to receive that. So a lot of the battle as a coach is learning to get your client in a receptive, open state.
So, what are some of the things that you do daily to get into that state? Like, you're running a business and you're doing a lot of this stuff. You've been a PT, which is probably one of the easiest professions to kind of burn out in. There's so many challenges. You run in your business, you're transforming people's lives, you feel the pressure of doing it all for yourself, the body image stuff that goes with most of it. Like, how have you gone through that? Like, what are the things that have helped you to nail, to be able to progress through that?
Yeah, well, initially I did it wrong for quite a while. Not wrong, I did it the hard way. I like to joke in my courses about doing life on hard mode for a while, and only just realizing, like, what I call unlocking God mode, where you basically make conscious choices and start creating. But basically I did it like the hard way. I just basically worked 6 to 5, sometimes till 9 every day of the week, pumped out as many sessions as I could. Basically had a lot of overcompensating in my early 20s, where I was told my whole teenage years I was never good enough. So I went out to prove to the world that I was good enough and just learned everything, did everything, and it never was enough. So I basically burnt myself out multiple times, did disc bulges, did all sorts of shit, until my body made me stop and pay attention, which is, it's always a lesson. If we don't listen to it, it's going to make us pay attention somehow. So then I learned a lot of Paul Chek stuff. So I started getting into more holistic approaches, which basically got me back into what helped me change, because I was working as a just straight PT, nothing else, learning more about exercise, more about nutrition, and giving my clients more and more that they weren't actually doing. And then I started realizing that what changed me was what I did up here. So I started bringing in, obviously, nutrition in terms of organic type foods, better quality water, sleep patterns, doing some sort of movement meditation, like a Tai Chi, like something active. That was a meditation process, breathing techniques, any form of other meditations as well. Art, creativity. So doing those as a therapeutic / relaxation tool, finding fun things to do as in my spare time, sports, activities. They're the main ways I learned to balance it. But then all doing my own sort of clearing work in terms of some of the techniques that I teach on a regular basis to prevent life, smacking me in the face if I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah. So the whole system there, like a holistic approach, definitely. I've been hugely influenced by Paul Chek as well. How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, is it's a Bible, really. Like, it's where people should be starting when they're thinking about getting into personal training stuff. I believe. If we want to just delve more into those mindset, belief type things, like, how much time do people need to be spending on it? What should that time feel like? What's some practical stuff there around the
right.
beliefs?
So I believe anyone will benefit from even just a small amount of time. Generally, the worse your life is going, the more time you need to spend on it. But I'm big on telling people, don't wait till life's kicking your door down and burning your house down to start paying attention. Any time's a good time. So just becoming aware of, like, what you're currently creating and what you actually want to create. One really easy activity to do is go, okay, this is where I'm at right now. What's my beliefs about what's possible for me? And that's going to start, if you think you want to do this, what do I actually believe right now? And kind of address where that's at.
Yeah.
Think about where you want to get to and start listing what you need to believe to get to there. And there'll be a bit of a gap between the two generally, because if you didn't have a belief gap, then you'd probably have that thing that you want already.
Yeah.
So start looking at what thoughts, what emotions, what behavioral patterns you're doing that's creating that. And I mean, unless there's a few different ways to do it quicker, but that's a bit more of a drawn out process for me to explain. But the basic way is I'm not super big on affirmations, because what can happen with affirmations is you can create cognitive dissonance. If you tell yourself something and you don't actually physically feel it, it actually creates more of an unconscious split. And then it pushes it more into what's called your shadow in psychology. But what you can do if you do it properly is you can do a form of affirmations like an incantation, where you're actually changing your physiology. You're using the words in a real powerful state, which then have a bigger effect. So let me teach you a little bit of mechanics here. So Keegan, you've got, your name, you know what it is, right? 100%. So if you say that to yourself inside your head, my name is Keegan, it has a certain kind of tone, a certain kind of place, and you actually believe it when you hear it, right?
Yeah.
So what's something you don't believe at all, like that, you're a giraffe or something like that? All right, say that to yourself inside your head. And anyone that's listening, do this activity as well, and notice where you hear that in your head. Does it have a different tonality, a different location, and a different kind of feeling to it?
Yeah, for sure.
So when you're doing these processes, be aware that you can do it, anything you can do well, or you can do it better. So you want to, if you're going to be doing affirmations or you're going to be doing these things, you want to start using the voice that you actually believe inside your head, with the location, the tonality, and the resonance that you actually fully believe, because a lot of people do it with the voice they don't believe, and that actually creates more disbelief than belief. So if you want to believe something, use what's called the submodalities of how it actually works in your mind. Also, you want to couple that with the feeling. This is getting into a few other things. I'm sort of going all over the place here, but basically the thought component is the neurological component, it's the energetic component. The emotional component is basically the magnetic component. So when you talk about the law of attraction, vibration, whatever, your emotion is what creates that energy and motion through emotion. So we want to actually start cultivating the emotional response in the body, because your body, when it has an emotional response, actually opens up the unconscious mind. All emotional responses are unconscious responses. So, for example, you've probably been in a fight with someone before, like an argument, and they said something like, "You're acting like a child." Have you ever had that before, or You've said it?
Yeah.
So what happens when someone goes into an emotional response, they actually tend to regress in their nervous system back to a time when they first learnt that emotion. It's generally childhood. So you're actually arguing with a kid neurologically. But when we activate those emotional states, we're actually highly programmable. And this is where, big conspiracy theories is people want us in a fear or, those kind of states, because we're actually easier to program. But we want to do this on a positive way. So we want to start creating the feelings inside of ourselves of how we already want to feel to create our new goal or reality. So let's say your goal is to have a business that changes the world, make money, help people, and all those things. Who do you need to be to have that? So you might need to be organized, confident. You might need to be, make a list. And what do you need to believe? Make a list. Then you want to start putting yourself in the emotions that you want to be having. So start feeling it. Remember a time we've had in the past, cultivate that in the body, focus on the area of your body that feels it. Then once you've got that energy building in your body, you link the thought with the emotion. So you say the thought in the way that you believe it, in the same place, the same location, the same tone, with the same feeling, and they start getting neurologically linked together. It's undeniable because you actually feel the emotion, you're saying it the way you believe it, your body, your mind believes it. It starts to be a deeper level program then, because you actually feel confident. If you're saying I'm confident and you feel the confidence in your body and in your mind at the same time, it gets linked. It's undeniable. Then I would imagine the future and start linking it to future events and seeing yourself acting that way. Sorry, my phone just is going to go flat, so I might have to grab a charger in a minute, but we'll see how we go.
Yeah, no worries. Just let us know if you need to buzz and get that. Cool. So I think it's making a lot of sense, and I think a lot of the people in my community have been exposed to some degree with these concepts through Bob Proctor, and they may have checked out The Secret, like he's one of the main guys in The Secret. Mm-hmm. Getting into Bob Proctor's work is probably the pivotal factor in me stepping away from being an NRL strength and conditioning coach and moving into this role, because looking at more deeply at what I want to do, and backing myself, I guess, to do it with some of that stuff. Has who were some of the people that have helped you most or influenced you most? You've mentioned Paul Check there.
Yeah.
Who else has sort of shaped your journey that you're really thankful for?
I love Bob Proctor. I really like his stuff. I like his sense of humor. I like the Stickman that he got from Thurman Fleet. It's a really good visual explanation of how the mind works and how we basically take in information in the unconscious and conscious mind. Great. I'll
put a link to that for the guys. Anyone who hasn't seen that yet, it's really important to.
It's one of the best explanations. I actually use it in some of my workshops because it's quite well, like an easy diagram that people can get.
Yep.
There's been over the past decade of studying pretty much non-stop. There's been so many different people, like a lot of the NLP based worlds of Richard Bandler, John Grinder, Tony Robbins, different people in the hypnosis world as well, Milton Erickson, and all the way they work, and understanding that language is the programming tool of the mind. We basically think in pictures and words and feelings, obviously, as well. So utilizing those to reprogram the mind and understand how we interact with reality has been huge for me. Lately, I've probably end of last year, I did some of Dr. Joe Dispenza's advanced workshops, which were really, really good. I like what he's doing.
How did you? So talk to us a little bit about that. Did you go to Mexico or one of those ones, or?
No, I went to, I think it was the Sunshine Coast. I did his 2-day workshop in Melbourne. Then I went to his advanced workshop in Sunshine Coast.
So did he have all the technology and stuff there?
Yeah. I did the heart math. I did what's called the GDV. There was a couple other ones that were, to test other stuff, but I didn't get on those. There was a limited number of those, so we basically got allocated certain things. Yeah. And that was really cool to see, the response in that.
So basically these are technologies that will tell us, are we in that parasympathetic or sympathetic state, like heart rate variability, brain waves, physical stuff that comes from physics that's, really comes from the modern way of thinking about science, that's kind of giving some validation to what can be considered woo-woo or comes from ancient beliefs.
Perfect.
How was that for you?
Oh, really good. I really like how he's trying to quantify. Yeah. He basically demystified the metaphysical stuff and show physiological changes to some of the techniques he was teaching. Really great. He's a really good presenter. I really like his style. Yeah. I watch different people and what they do, and not just what they're communicating, but what they're sub-communicating and what their actual overview is, how they present is. He's really great with that. I love his information. He, depending on what background, he basically demystifies the metaphysical and turns it into a bit of a, logical process, and gives you enough science that your left brain's like, oh yeah, I get this, and then enough that your right brain's kind of creative and starts going with it. His main tool is meditation. So he does meditation and obviously a bit of hypnosis as he talks people through it. Yeah. Which is great. And the amount that we did over those days was like a modern day Vipassana. I don't know if you heard of Vipassana, whatever it's called. It's like a modern day version of that. And by the end of it, I pretty much wasn't even eating, wasn't sleeping, because I just didn't need to. I was doing so much meditation every day that I was pretty much going to disappear off the planet. And some of the actual experiences I had in meditation were quite out there.
Yeah.
But, very therapeutic. I think depending on the person, sometimes I like that approach, and it can be slow, but also can be too fast for some people, depending on where they're at. I do teach meditation to clients, and in some of my courses, some different techniques, but I also like the therapeutic approach because it's directed and you actually go in and remove something and then kind of help guide someone through the learnings. In those kind of environments, it sometimes just drops people into it and they don't know how to deal with it. So there's that aspect as well, but everyone brings to themselves what they're ready for. So I always like to see what was good and what could be better about things. Yeah. And, I've learned from everyone I go see, and he's out there, probably one of the best people to study. Yeah. I like Bruce Lipton. Yeah. Just looking at my shelf, I've got a variety of different stuff, but also getting a lot into, I've always been big on movement stuff as well. So looking at natural movement stuff, understanding a bit more of the mechanics of all that, and just learning to play again, which is huge. I think it's very utilize in our society the idea of play, because it's creativity, it's expanding, and real learning comes from playing. So I'm really interested in infant and child development as well, and how that wires our brain, and how our basic movement patterns and all those things in early childhood basically wire up our nervous system. And that also, if we skip stages, can cause psychological issues as well. So that's something that's really interesting me, and I'm spending a lot of time studying now.
Yeah. Did you learn to crawl? Did you go through the stages as
Well, personally, I think I did pretty well with that, based on what my mum said.
Yeah.
I actually do a lot, not every single day, but most days of the week, I do some infant development crawling patterns on the ground.
Yep.
So some stuff I learned from Paul Check, a book called Wisdom of the Body Moving, somewhere on my shelf, that goes into that as well. And they're basically just wiggling on the ground and trying to articulate the spine in different ways. And then some other more, bipedal on all fours sort of crawl patterns as well. So you're doing the cross crawling, you're doing the ipsilateral, contralateral crawls, some of the ido-portal crawling stuff as well.
Yep.
I think that's huge. And that's like, you're going to get a lot of psychological benefit from movement, because like ido-portal says as well, the mind's actually made for movement, and actually develops through movement.
Yep.
So I like teaching and exploring both for myself and for students.
Yep.
Because it's very therapeutic both ways.
Yeah, cool. So let's jump into this a little bit more. Like your background is, working through personal training as well. Like, where do you think biggest improvements can be made in training methods to assist with this bigger picture shift of, who we are and who we want to be?
Cool. Well, I've seen a lot of huge improvements in the quality of the teaching that's out there. So there's a lot more quality Olympic lifting stuff. There's a lot more quality movement-based trainings. So that's all going really well. And I think that's great. But I think the next frontier is the journey back into the mind and the emotions. Because a lot of PTs kind of might be scared of that world, but they don't realize, or they may realize, that your emotions are added to the plates that you put on the bar. Whenever you're doing a lift, you're not just lifting the weights, you're lifting your stress with your mortgage, your stress with your relationship, the stress from work. Like, your clients are coming in, and yourself are basically carrying that load physiologically based on what's happening in their life. So if we can help clients shift those things and get themselves in the parasympathetic state sorry, my phone just kind of cut out again. If we can get them into that state, that's going to allow them to perform better, lose weight, get healthier, get happier. So I think that's really the next frontier, exploring those realms. And I know, what is the level personal trainers work at. I'm not teaching anyone to be a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I just want to help them to help people get rid of their problems and get past them and create new things. So I think that's where the next kind of frontier is. And it's super powerful. You don't have to be doing, you can always refer out as well. You don't have to do super hard stuff if you don't feel comfortable with it. But in my reality, that nothing is a hard thing. It's all the same thing. Yeah,
and I guess, you kind of get to that legal thing of like, oh, what are you meant to be doing and whatever. But the reality is that people need help and people need healing, and personal trainers are the people who are most deeply engaged with people who have made the decision, I want to be better than I am now, or than I used to be. I think that idea that, we need to stay in your box, like, you're going to be speaking to people. If you're not aware of the power of your words, then it's just really something ignorant that you're, somewhere where you're selling yourself short and you're decreasing the value of what you can do. Like, you're going to be speaking to the person. You may as well learn about, what that means. And you're going to be, you're going to be in the presence of that person. So your energy is going to be affecting them. So you may as well have a feeling for, well, who am I and what am I here for? Because if you're going into a session feeling like, fuck, I'm tired and I'm doing too many sessions at the moment and I just want this person's money and then get out the door, then they're going to be feeling that, and you're not giving them the service that you think that you're giving them. Because all this stuff, the stuff that Paul is talking about is 100% real. And people know it. They want to see what you're about, but they want to feel what you're about before they're listening. People are like, no one listens to me. My experience is that it's because they're not seeing something that they want to act on. They're not seeing something that they want to work towards. They're not feeling that this is you're the person to lead them to where they want to be. So then they're not going to listen. And the deeper your connection is to what you're teaching them, the further it's going to go. And I 100% believe in this stuff, Paul. Like I've also been learning Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza, Bob Proctor, these kind of guys have been, more my path. I haven't gone as far into the hypnosis and NLP. I think it's really, really interesting stuff. But I would say that the biggest reason for, the progress that I've been able to have, working in a premiership winning NRL team and now transitioning into a business that allows me to travel the world and speak to people about positive stuff, like it's because of what you're talking about today. So anyone who's listening thinking that this is an optional extra for a PT, like this is what you do, and then you add movement on top of it. Like first you create a relationship and you communicate, and then yes, you need to be technically good. Like Paul and I both love handstands and lifting heavy and all those things, but in terms of helping someone else to do it, this is actually the fundamental, right? And then, you build the details on top of that.
Well, it's even in the word, fundamental, right? So the word says it itself, right? If you don't get the mental right, then you're pretty much not doing the right thing. So it's all built on that. And if you look back at all the clients that have got results in your career, in whoever you work with, when they've made that mental emotional shift, that's when they've stuck to the program. That's when they've been consistent. And that's when they've showed up to the sessions. It's the ones that haven't been, and they're kind of half playing the game and half pulling themselves back, are the ones that never really get there. So if we can turn those clients into ones that make that switch too, then we're doing the best service. Really, PTs, like you said, are probably out of all healthcare type people on the planet, the ones that actually have the chance to really make a difference in people's lives. They see you, a couple times a week, once a week. They don't see doctors like that. I'm going to have to run and grab my charger, but give me 2 seconds. We have the chance. You guys out there working with people face to face, a couple times a week, are the real influences in their life. They probably see you more than their family, their family and friends. So, if you can just drip feed them good stuff, that's going to have a ripple effect. And one of the big things I'm super passionate about, and I know you are too, is how you can help someone, which helps someone, which helps someone, which helps someone. Yeah. Like, it's hard for an individual to change the world, but an individual can help a group of individuals, which then help more. And it's that ripple effect. It's that ripple in reality that where you just touch this one person and they go out and help another 20 people, which then helps another 1,000 people, which then helps 10,000. And before you know it, the world's a different place. So, starting with all the foundations of health, because you can't really build a healthy mind with a dysfunctional body, and vice versa. They both play together. You can do all the best mental, emotional work, but if you're feeding the body shit, it doesn't even, it's pressing the accelerator, but you haven't got the fuel to actually fuel the body to produce the hormones, the neurotransmitters, and all those kind of things. So we need to work at both levels, but if you're only working at one level, it's going to be harder.
Yeah. No, I think my last question was going to be about what legacy you want to create, but I think you've pretty much laid out a plan for it right there. With changing one life, changing one coach's life. Every time you help a personal trainer to understand the power of what they're doing, and they go ahead and open a gym, or they get better results with their clients, they influence the other trainers around them, and they're obviously working with multiple people every week. So it is a powerful level to be working. I that's the reason why I've gone this direction. Because I think we have some similarities there in what we're trying to do and some of the things that we've worked hard to overcome. How confident are you? How are you feeling about the journey that you're going on? You've made huge progress over the last few years. It's great to see what you're doing. Where's it going to go?
Well, like you said, for me, I feel this is what I'm going to be doing. Yeah, I'm going to get there. There's nothing else that I'd rather be doing with my life. I want to help people evolve. I want to stretch myself to see what I'm capable of and help other people to do that. So if I die swinging the sword of helping people believe in themselves, helping people to realize that they can create what they want in life, and that they're always creating. If they're creating what they don't want, they're still the one responsible for that. So give them the empowerment to know that they're the one in charge. If I die swinging that sword, then that's a battle worth fighting. So, that's what I really want to do, and help people to realize that anything's possible for them, that they can help other people to do the same. So my business is called Evolve. So I'm all about evolving consciousness and all that thing as well. So, if I just want to help other people evolve and they can help other people to do that too, that's a pretty fun thing to be doing. I enjoy sharing what I know, learning more. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. It's what makes my heart sing. It's what I enjoy. And I just want to be doing that.
Definitely comes. It definitely comes through, Paul. And yeah, people who are checking this out, make sure you reach out to Paul and just say thank you, or say what touched you most from the words today, because you can really feel that this does come from the heart, and there's value there. Obviously, it's a short period. People, if they want to do more, especially if they're in Australia or anywhere in the world now, it's easy enough to get anywhere. Get to a workshop with Paul to understand this stuff more deeply. I know he's coming up to Byron Bay in the near future. Is that?
Yeah. So I've got Perth tomorrow, Sydney next week. Byron's up in the clouds because my girlfriend, she's coming back and I haven't seen her for a month. So I'll see how I go with that. But I'm teaching in Adelaide, my advanced level courses, and Gold Coast. So my level 1 sort of advanced level NLP type courses.
Yep.
We'll share some links and stuff. But the one-day event's a great start. If you can get to Sydney next weekend, come along. I'll be running some more web-based stuff too for people to check me out.
Perfect.
But I'm sure we can kind of liaise and share some of that stuff.
Yep, so definitely guys who are around the world, that web-based stuff will be really exciting for international audience. I was going to ask you when you're going to go overseas, but I guess that web-based stuff is, taking you around the world, which is
That's
cool.
That's it, yeah. Well, I've got plans to do New Zealand next year and teach over there. And then I went to America for fun, but I might go there for actual doing stuff in terms of sharing and teaching eventually. But yeah, not super big on the plans, just really get around Australia and explore that a little bit more.
Yeah, cool. No, well done on everything that you've done so far. Really appreciate your time today. And so people can, where's the best way for people to see what you're up to? Is it Facebook or?
I'm probably most active on Facebook. I've got an Instagram and all that, but yeah, just add me, Paul Eliseo. I've got the Evolve Mind and Body Coaching Facebook page.
Yep.
My website's readytoevolve.com.au, so it's ready to evolve.
Yep.
That may change in the future. I'm getting that all redone, but add me on Facebook.
The perpetual website conundrum.
It's always
but
going,
the Facebook's
right?
got it kind of held steady.
Probably,
so.
Where I'm at mostly. I've been doing a lot more Facebook Lives, so I'll probably do one today when I'm waiting at the airport before I jump on a plane. That's always fun. I love interacting. So if you see me on there, say hello, ask questions. Just get interactive with me. I'm happy to have a chat if you want to as well. And yeah, Facebook's probably the best place for that. But shoot me a question. I'm always happy to have a chat with that. Well
done. Looking forward to tracking this journey, and hopefully we'll check in again in the future. There's a million other questions that I would have liked to have asked, but it was great to what you shared today was really powerful. So thanks a lot.
Cool, mate. Happy to do this again for sure. Thanks for everyone for listening. Keep evolving, and we'll chat soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul.